If they can live without you, they will. The only true security in power is not to be admired, nor even respected, but to be needed. Today, I will show you how to weave yourself so deeply into the machinery of their ambitions that removing you becomes unthinkable and impossible. Power does not rest in crowns or titles. It lives in the quiet chokehold of necessity. Kings fall when their courtiers no longer require them. Lovers drift when their partners offer nothing they cannot replace. Allies betray when your absence costs them nothing. To survive in the arena of human ambition, you must become the irreplaceable gear without which their entire mechanism collapses. Not loved, not feared, but essential, to the point where losing you means losing everything they value. And once you are their oxygen, their survival will be chained to your presence. You have been told to make yourself useful. That advice is incomplete. The wise do not merely become useful, they become indispensable. The difference is life and death in the arena of power. To be useful is to be replaceable. There is always another servant, another advisor, another friend who can fulfill the same role. But to be indispensable is to become the keystone of the arch. Remove you, and the entire structure collapses. History remembers rulers who made this their art. Consider Cardinal Richelieu in 17th century France. He did not rule as king, yet without him, the king's authority would have rotted from within. He controlled the threads of diplomacy, the loyalty of the army, the intelligence of the court. Any faction that sought to remove him found the entire machinery of the state grinding to a halt. He was not merely in power. He was the structure itself. Now, reflect on your own life. In whose plans are you merely an accessory, and in whose plans are you the irreplaceable mechanism? Your goal is the latter. The architecture of dependency begins with one question: what do they value that they cannot easily create by or replace? Once you find it, you must entwine yourself with it so completely that separation is not only costly, it is unbearable. Do not think only in material terms. Sometimes the rarest resource is trust. Sometimes it is discretion. Sometimes it is the ability to solve a problem without making them look weak. The shrewd understand that true dependency is built on multiple pillars. One pillar is skill, a competence so precise, so refined, that no one else can match it without years of effort. Another is access, doors you can open that others cannot even knock on. A third is emotional or psychological anchoring, knowing them so well, anticipating their needs so precisely that they feel exposed in your absence. Do you see the pattern? It is not enough to do one thing well. You must position yourself where the combination of things you provide forms a lock only you can open. Consider the psychology. Humans cling to what reduces their uncertainty. We are drawn to stability, to predictability. If you are the source of that stability, you become a comfort they will defend, even if it costs them dearly. They may complain about you, even resent you, but they will not remove you, because without you, they would have to face chaos. This is why competent but easily replaced people vanish when tides shift. Their value is visible but not essential. Essential people survive purges, political storms, corporate restructurings, even personal betrayals. Why? Because removing them is like removing the oxygen from a sealed room. Everyone suffocates. Be careful, dependency is not built overnight. It must grow quietly, invisibly, without proclamation. The moment you loudly declare how essential you are, you invite suspicion. Instead, operate like a root system under the soil, invisible yet binding the entire forest together. In modern life, this can be engineered in subtle ways. At work, do not simply complete tasks. Design systems that only you understand fully. Build relationships across departments so that your influence is woven through the company's nervous system. In personal alliances, become the person who knows the hidden levers, the one they call when their world shakes. Ask yourself, if you vanished tomorrow, what would stop functioning? If the answer is nothing of consequence, then you are a pawn, and pawns are sacrificed. Look at history again. Julius Caesar kept men around him who could be replaced, but he also kept those whose survival was tied to his own. These men defended him not out of loyalty, but because their fortunes, safety, and future died with him. That is the ultimate dependency, when their best chance of survival is to ensure yours. You may be wondering, is this not manipulative? Yes, but so is every power structure you have ever entered, whether you admitted it or not. The only question is whether you will be the architect or the brick waiting to be placed. Dependency is power's insurance policy. When others cannot imagine succeeding, surviving, or even functioning without you, they will shield you from threats, sometimes even against their own interests. They may not love you. They may not trust you completely, but they will not let you fall. You understand the blueprint, but a blueprint alone does not make a fortress. It must be fortified, reinforced so that no rival can pry you from your position, and that requires something far more dangerous than mere indispensability. Something you must learn in the next step, because once they fear losing you, you can begin to control them without saying a single word. Abundance breeds disrespect. This is not cynicism. It is human nature. The more available something is, the less we value it. Gold is treasured because it is rare. Water is ignored until you are dying of thirst. People are no different. If you are always there, always ready, always giving, they will consume you without thought. They will assume you will always be there. And the moment you are no longer convenient, they will find another source. Control begins where supply ends. The shrewd know this instinctively. They ration themselves like a scarce resource. They do not flood the market with their presence, their skills, their favors. They release them in measured doses, just enough to create appetite, but never enough to remove hunger. Think of Elizabeth I of England. Her court was filled with suitors, diplomats, and rivals, all vying for her favor. She kept them in a state of constant uncertainty. Rarely granting full approval, never offering total access, she made herself the prize no one could fully possess. And so they returned, again and again, desperate for a drop of what she might give. Ask yourself, how often do you give without thought? How often do you make yourself too easy to reach, too eager to respond? You believe generosity will buy loyalty. It will not. Loyalty is bought by the fear of losing access. This is the essence of scarcity. You become valuable not simply because of what you offer, but because they cannot get it elsewhere, and you do not give it freely. The mind reacts to scarcity with obsession. Psychologists call it the scarcity heuristic. The more rare or limited something is, the more we believe it is worth. Merchants have known this for centuries. A silk merchant does not display all his finest cloth in the market. He shows one piece, whispers that it is the last of its kind, and watches the price soar. You must treat your value the same way. Let them see flashes of your skill. Let them hear whispers of your influence. But never place your full arsenal on the table. Consider relationships. If you are always available, your presence loses its gravity. But withdraw, selectively, strategically, and you create space for longing, for curiosity, for need. The same principle rules politics, business, even art. When Napoleon faced his marshals, he did not appear daily to answer their every concern. He appeared suddenly, decisively, bringing solutions they could not create themselves. His presence was an event, not a routine. You must decide what you will ration. It may be your time. It may be your counsel. It may be the warmth of your approval. Whatever it is, it must be something they crave, and something they cannot easily replace. The danger is in overexposure. Familiarity does not just breed contempt, it erodes leverage. When they see too much of you, they stop fearing your absence. And once that fear is gone, so is your hold. A subtle tactic is to create bottlenecks around your value. If your skill is in high demand, make yourself the gatekeeper. Do not let them bypass you. Every path to the treasure should pass through your hands. Another is to manufacture exclusivity. Offer your insight to a select few, and let the rest know they are outside the circle. Exclusion breeds desire. Desire breeds pursuit, but you must balance scarcity with presence. Vanish too long, and they will adapt without you. Appear too often, and they will take you for granted. The mastery lies in being just out of reach, close enough to touch, yet never fully in their grasp. You may wonder, will they resent this? Perhaps, but resentment is a weak force compared to need. A resentful ally who requires you is still an ally. A grateful ally who does not need you will vanish when you are no longer convenient. So test yourself. Remove something they take for granted. Watch how quickly they notice. Watch how their behavior changes. In this, you will see the truth. People do not cling to you because of what you are. They cling because of what they fear losing. And when that fear is strong enough, they will guard you as they guard their own survival. Now you understand scarcity as a tool. But a tool is nothing without precision, and precision comes from knowing exactly what they dread losing most. Which leads us to the next step. Not simply making yourself rarer, but making yourself irreplaceable in their mind. Once that belief takes root, control stops being something you exert. It becomes something they willingly surrender. Have you ever noticed how the most dangerous people are not the loudest, nor the most forceful, but the ones no one dares replace? This is not luck, it is strategy. Replacement fear is a quiet poison, invisible until it has already taken root. It is the creeping dread in the minds of others that no one else can perform your role with equal precision, discretion, or cunning. It is what makes kings hesitate before removing an advisor, CEOs pause before firing a star employee, and allies cling when the world shifts beneath them. Consider the case of Otto von Bismarck. The Iron Chancellor controlled Europe not merely through policy, but through the subtle dread of replacement. His enemies knew that no other diplomat could navigate the tangled alliances of the German states with his brilliance. His own monarch feared losing him, not because he demanded loyalty, but because losing him would mean chaos, war, instability, the collapse of carefully constructed power. Bismarck became untouchable because he was irreplaceable in their minds long before they realized it. Ask yourself, can the people around you survive without you? If they can, then you are expendable. If they cannot, then you are danger itself, the force that they must keep close, protect, and even fear. Replacement fear is psychological leverage. It operates silently, shaping behavior without overt threats. Humans dread voids. We fear the unknown. We fear what cannot be substituted. Look to history again. Consider the Medici of Florence, masters of influence. They did not wield armies as often as they wielded networks. They cultivated people who could do the work of 10. But they ensured that these people knew the web was tangled, complex, and impossible to replace. A single thread removed, and the entire pattern unraveled. This fear of replacement, subtle as a shadow, kept allies obedient and rivals cautious. Now, let us bring this closer to your own life. Do those around you think they could manage perfectly without you? Could your boss, partner, or ally perform as efficiently if you were gone tomorrow? If the answer is yes, then you are disposable. If the answer is no, then you hold the keys to a quiet, irresistible power. But here is the art: do not boast of your irreplaceability. Do not flaunt it like a weapon. This is poison, quiet, insidious, deadly. It works best when it is suspected, not confirmed. Let them feel your absence in small doses. Let them realize your value through subtle gaps, mistakes that only occur when you are not there. In business, the most valuable employees are rarely the most visible. They are the ones whose absence causes the meetings to derail, the deals to stumble, the systems to falter. In relationships, the most influential people are those whose silence is deafening, whose absence leaves a psychological vacuum others cannot fill. Replacement fear is enhanced by scarcity, but it is distinct. Scarcity makes people desire you. Replacement fear makes them dread losing you. One is appetite, the other is instinctive survival. Both are necessary. Both must be cultivated. Even subtle signals can amplify this fear. Do not always solve every problem immediately. Step back strategically. Allow others to flounder. Just enough, and they will begin to notice what they would truly lose. Let your guidance be selective, precise, and unpredictable. The fear that no one else can perform as you do will settle in their minds like a shadow. Do you see the pattern? Those who control replacement fear control behavior without overt confrontation. They do not need to coerce. They do not need to manipulate openly. People adjust themselves to protect what they believe is irreplaceable. They adapt, yield, and even worship silently, because the cost of losing you is unthinkable. But beware, this poison is delicate. Overplay it, and resentment grows. Underplay it, and they take you for granted. The mastery lies in subtlety, timing, and precise absence. Now you understand why true power is quiet. It lives not in visibility, nor in demands, but in the silent terror that one cannot replace you. And once this seed is planted, there is one final element that turns fear into obedience. One final truth that, when applied, ensures they will never consider life without you. The next step is where survival becomes dominance. Power without subtlety is rebellion waiting to happen. You can become indispensable, scarce, feared even. But if those who rely on you despise you, your throne is built on sand. Consider the great manipulators of history. Richelieu, once again, provides the perfect example. He made himself essential to the French crown. Yet he did not rule by intimidation alone. He managed the delicate balance of fear and favor so skillfully that nobles obeyed without open revolt. They resented him privately, yes, but they could not afford to act on it. He had entwined himself into their survival, their ambitions, their very fortunes, all without stirring lethal anger. Ask yourself, can your influence persist if your indispensability breeds hatred? If every favor you grant comes with resentment, your power is brittle. It will shatter the moment your enemies discover an opening. Dependency without resentment is the fortress that makes your leverage unassailable. How is it achieved? First, you must understand the subtle psychology of reciprocity. Humans instinctively measure the balance between what they receive and what they perceive they sacrifice. Give too little, and they feel exploited. Give too much without strategy, and they undervalue you. Mastery lies in calibrating your contributions to create gratitude, not debt, not shame, not obligation, but the quiet, lingering sense that the world is better because of your presence. Consider the Venetian doges who ruled through commerce, patronage, and influence rather than outright conquest. The senators depended on their guidance and access. Yet they did not revolt. The doges ensured that every dependency was coated in a perception of fairness, opportunity, and subtle honor. No man feels trapped when he believes he is gaining something, even as he becomes enmeshed in your web. You must also manage visibility. People tolerate dependency when it is framed as choice. If they feel they are willingly seeking your counsel, your aid, your skill, they embrace the tie. If they feel coerced, the very same dependency becomes a liability. Rebellion brews. Let us examine this in daily life. Are you the friend, employee, or ally who solves problems for others without recognition? Do they understand the value you provide, or do they simply take it as given? If they take it for granted, resentment festers. If they perceive it as earned, rare, and beneficial, they remain grateful, even while they need you. Consider military history. Alexander the Great commanded generals whose loyalty was not blind obedience, but a complex mixture of ambition and dependence. He rewarded competence, elevated trusted officers, and gave them autonomy, enough to feel respected, yet always reminding them they could not function fully without his vision. They relied on him, yet their resentment was minimal because their ambition was fed even as it was restrained. This principle applies universally. Dependency without resentment requires the simultaneous cultivation of need and perceived benefit. You must ensure that those who rely on you feel empowered, valued, and occasionally triumphant in your presence. If every interaction signals subjugation, they will eventually resist. If every interaction signals advantage, they will accept, even welcome, the tie. And yet there is a dangerous subtlety here. You must give enough to keep them satisfied, but not so much that they could flourish without you. You must guide their ambitions, their desires, their successes while quietly making them reliant on your presence. The art is invisible. The manipulation must feel like luck, mentorship, opportunity, not domination. Ask yourself, are you building loyalty or merely dependency? The difference is survival. Loyalty endures. Dependency without resentment endures longer. Dependency with resentment ends in betrayal. Here is the cold truth. Humans will tolerate almost anything if they feel they are gaining. They will endure inconvenience, frustration, even humiliation if their progress, pleasure, or survival depends on you and they believe it is their choice. This is the final refinement of powered influence that feels voluntary. The chains are unseen. The cage is velvet-lined, and yet every step they take keeps them closer to you. And once you have mastered this delicate balance, you are ready for the ultimate test, transforming mere reliance into absolute control without a single word of coercion. Because the next step is where fear, scarcity, and gratitude converge into true, unshakable dominance. There is power in presence. But there is a different, far more potent power in absence. Have you ever noticed how quickly people scramble when what they take for granted is suddenly withdrawn? This is no accident. It is leverage, the ultimate currency in any arena of human ambition. Exit as leverage is simple in concept, yet ruthless in execution. You create dependency. You cultivate scarcity. You instill fear of replacement. You ensure that those who rely on you do so without resentment. Then, you step away. History provides countless illustrations. Consider the exile of Napoleon Bonaparte from France after his initial abdication. The French government had grown accustomed to his presence. The army, the courts, the people. His absence created chaos. It revealed how integral he had been to the machinery of power. Even in exile, his mere return threatened the established order. The exit, voluntary or imposed, became a weapon. Ask yourself what happens when you vanish. Does the world adapt seamlessly? Do they continue without you? Or does the absence create a vacuum, confusion, fear, and urgency? Your ability to answer that question is the measure of your leverage. Exit as leverage is not mere disappearance. It is a calculated withdrawal. It is not retreat. It is positioning. When you step back, even briefly, you compel others to confront their reliance on you. They discover what they cannot do without. They see the gaps you fill, the solutions only you provide, the stability they assumed was permanent. Consider the world of business. A key executive who resigns temporarily or threatens to immediately shifts the dynamics. Competitors and colleagues alike scramble to cover responsibilities, reveal weaknesses, and negotiate concessions. Suddenly, what was once undervalued becomes precious. The threat of absence magnifies value exponentially. Even in personal alliances, the principle holds. The friend, the partner, the confidant who is always present is often overlooked. But the one who withdraws strategically commands attention. Silence becomes a message louder than any word. Your exit is a signal. They cannot function without you, and they know it. The psychological mechanism is straightforward. Humans fear loss more than they desire gain. This is the principle of loss aversion. We overestimate the cost of losing something familiar, tangible, or useful. When you withdraw, you activate this primal fear. Suddenly, your value is undeniable, unassailable, and urgently needed. But caution is critical. Exit must be credible. A bluff that is transparent achieves nothing. A disappearance must feel real enough to provoke reflection, not anger or indifference. If people suspect manipulation without consequence, your leverage vanishes. You must create the impression that your absence is costly, inevitable, or at least within your sovereign control. The greatest strategists understood this. King Louis XIV of France, the Sun King, would occasionally absent himself from court. The nobles, unused to his absence, panicked over favors withheld, decisions delayed, and the unpredictability of access. Through absence, he commanded attention and obedience without speaking a single word of threat. Exit as leverage also teaches restraint. Do not overplay your absence, or dependency can erode. Do not disappear so long that they adapt without you. Mastery lies in timing. Enough absence to reveal your indispensable role, but brief enough to remain within their consciousness as the center of value. And yet, the exit is more than tactical. It is philosophical. It reminds the world that your presence is not a given. Your power, your influence, your value, these are earned, maintained, and, above all, controlled by you. You are not there to serve them. They are there to require you. The exit signals sovereignty, and nothing inspires urgency like the threat of losing a vital ally, strategist, or resource. Ask yourself, do you wield your absence as a weapon, or are you merely present, assumed, and ignored? Those who control the exit control the negotiation, the perception, and ultimately, the obedience of others. The ultimate mastery comes when you realize this. You do not need to speak to command. You do not need to act to dominate. The possibility of your withdrawal, executed with precision, with strategy, with inevitability, is the final proof of your indispensability. And once you have perfected this, once absence becomes leverage, scarcity becomes fear, and dependency is devoid of resentment, then the final stage awaits. The stage where influence transforms into complete, unspoken control. Power is not seized in grand gestures. It lives in silence, in absence, in the subtle thread that others cannot replace. Do they know you control them? Rarely. Do they feel it? Always. You have learned to become indispensable, scarce, and feared. To instill reliance without resentment. To make your exit a weapon. Every interaction, every withdrawal, every scarcity. A calculated move on the board of human ambition. Ask yourself, who in your life would crumble without you? Who truly fears your absence? And who mistakes loyalty for necessity? This is the art of invisible control. Not through domination, not through force, but through strategic presence, subtle scarcity, and the quiet terror of irreplaceability. Now, it is your turn to act. Comment below, what will you make yourself indispensable at? Subscribe for more Machiavellian strategies and share this video. For those who understand the game, knowledge is power. Do not let them survive without learning this lesson.